Good evening. It is 6:47, and welcome to the public hearing meeting of the Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees. Please stand and join us for a moment of silence and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Trustees present, starting on your left and my right, are Trustee Lou Blackburn, Trustee Dan Mishke, Trustee Justin Henry, Trustee Jaime Resendez, Trustee Dustin Marshall, we're Trustee Joyce Foreman, Trustee Audrey Pinkerton. We're joined by the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Michael Hinojosa, and I'm Edwin Flores, Board President. Trustee Resendez, can you do the honors?
Si hay alguien que necesita los servicios de un intérprete, levanten la mano y alguien les puede ayudar.
Thank you very much. So the agenda item number 3, discussion of the school first annual financial management report. Dr. Hinojosa.
Yes, we'll have Dwayne Thompson, our Deputy Chief, Chief Financial Officer, give us an overview of the report, and then we'll turn it back over to the board.
Good evening. I will be briefly running through the scenario of the first rating, which is a evaluation of from TEA of all school districts in the state of Texas. And so we'll go to page 3, which it does a comparison of the ratings from 17 to 18. Now the 18 rating is on 16-17 data, so keep that in mind. So if you look at that, 846 school districts across the state of Texas, or 82%, were at superior rating, which we are one of those, as compared to last year, only 83% of school districts were at the superior rating. So we are in the highest category. There are three parts to the presentation tonight. The first was to go through the indicators. And then also there's some required disclosures that we have at the end. So we scored a possible 94 out of 100 as compared to last year of 96 of 100. There are 5 questions, and I'll run through each one, not each one, but I'll run through each section with you. There's 5 questions that are really fatal questions. If you answer no to those, you cannot score any better than unacceptable, really, and regardless of how many points that you have. And then there's the other points are based on how well you do in comparison to their expectations. So as we go through page 5, you can see the 5 questions that are fatal errors. If you answer no, in both fiscal years we answered yes. So we can move on to the scoring part, which begins on page 7. So one of those that we did not score perfect 10. The perfect 10 is the highest you can get would be the ratio of long-term debt to total assets. So last year we had 8 points, and this year we have 6 points, and that's based on our percentage. So anytime you have debt sales like we did, and you haven't begun to make payments on the principal of those, then your overall debt liability is going to be higher, and so that's why we went from an 8 to a 6. I anticipate for next year, based on 17-18 data, that we would move back to an 8. When you sell debt, there are expenses that aren't capitalized, so you have the issue from liabilities to assets. On the next page, on page 8, the other item that we did not score a perfect 10 on was administrative cost ratio, which in comparison between the 2 years is the same at 8 points. Then as you proceed on, the rest of these individual questions, we scored a perfect 10 in both years. And so, let me go back. So when we totaled all those up with the 8 and the 6, that's where we got to the 94%, or 94 out of 100 score for this year as a comparison to 96. Part of the disclosure information, as you can see on page 10, is what we are required to, and we do put on our website so you could visibly see not only this report, but also our annual financials, our CAFR, budgets, check registers, and those things which are required as part of the information we have to put out to the community. The other disclosures are, we have to put the superintendent's contract out, which is out on the web page. We have to identify any revenue or compensation that the superintendent received from services, which we have done. And then the last part is we have questions that we ask of the board about regarding gifts, business transactions, and so forth. Then the final part on page 13 is the description and reimbursements, whether it's meals, lodging, fuel, whatever that would be, by board member, and that's what we have on page 13. So, and again, this was for the board that was in place during 16-17. So Trustee Henry, you're not on there. So those are the items that we needed to go through in the public forum, give you the opportunity to ask me any questions about the topics.
Trustees, any questions? Trustee Pinkerton? And then Trustee Marshall.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for this update. Overall, it's superior, and so that's good, but of course I want to ask about the points that we didn't get. So just a couple of quick questions. So the long-term liabilities as a ratio versus assets, so we've moved down. You feel like we're going to be moving back next year? It sounds like there might be a timing issue to that. What would be the impact of adopting the commercial paper program as we're intending to?
As we move forward, that will help for a period of time because that's not considered long-term debt. But then when that finally, we hit the 300 million mark and then we sell debt, then that'll be a spike at that point. So it will help for a temporary time just simply because it's not considered long-term debt because it's less than a year.
Okay, great. And then on the administrative cost ratio, what ratio would it take to get all 10 points?
That is based on our size. So 10,000 and above districts have to be 0.0855 in total. And that calculation is taking the codes 21, 41, and dividing those by 11, 12, 13, and 31. And so that's the simple version of how that's calculated. And for a district our size, we have to be at 8.5, basically 8.55%. I also anticipate that will, based on what we presented in the CAFR, that will go down and we will be better next year and be under the 8.55%. And I believe that when you in the regular meeting, Mr. Throm will be presenting his PowerPoint presentation, and he has a complete slide regarding that.
Do you know how that's related to the instructional expenditure ratio that gets reported through the state?
I'm not positive
Not
that there's
familiar
any
with that.
correlation between those two other than there are similar function codes that are utilized.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Marshall.
So building on that, I also had a question about the administrative cost ratio. This is an area that we see conflicting data sets. Some say we're doing great on, keeping administrative overhead low relative to our other peer districts, and some say it's high. Does the data set that you have here provide benchmarking data of other ISDs so that we can see how we stack rank against other ISDs in this area?
I would have to go back and look at those because what we get from the state is just in total points, not by each individual question. So I could get information from comparable size districts to see what their percentages are, but I don't have those readily available to me, no, sir.
I'd be interested in seeing that. I sent an email to the board president and the superintendent about doing some benchmarking here around administrative cost ratios so that we can make sure we are, working towards being best in class in this area. And if this is a data set that we can leverage to benchmark that, I think it'd be interesting.
And I can do that. Sometimes when they look at administrative costs, they look like at only 41, the function code 41, and instead of taking how TEA reviews it. So we can easily do that on various comparable districts.
One other quick thing, just a minor point on slide 13. I realize that this is a small amount of money and it's not a big deal, but you show there that I spent $398.85, and I have never spent any district money, so it calls into question from my perspective what accounting was used, because there's a charge here for me on lodging, transportation, and other, and those are all wrong. So you need to go back and check into that data set with board services.
Okay, I will take a look at that.
Trustees, any other questions? So I'll just challenge mine as well, because I never spend any district money either, so just look into it. I was a little surprised when I saw that myself.
So if I'll check all those. I was just thinking if you went to a conference that we paid for the fees for the conference, that may, but I'll take a look at that. I'll have them do a comparison of all of them.
Okay, appreciate it, thank you.
I did attend the Houston training session that was mandated by the TEA, but I paid for myself, so.
Okay,
That's
well,
right.
I have no problem. We'll take a look at that and see how they arrived at that. Now, again, remember that's 16, 17, so.
Okay, so is there any, items 3.02 and 0.03, is that all included in this?
Yes.
Okay, well then, now we will move to, the agenda calls for a public forum segment of the meeting. To ensure this meeting is held in an orderly manner, I'm asking speakers to please refrain from using individual names and address the board and non-individual board trustees. Ms. Specina, will you call the names of the speakers?
Yes. Speakers, you will have 3 minutes to speak. When you arrive at the microphone, please state your name and address. Our only speaker tonight is Bill Betson.
Bill Betson, 6717 Cliffwood, Dallas, Texas. First, congratulations. This is a very good score. I actually had all the questions I was going to talk about tonight answered in the hallway. And they were actually on the same issues that the two trustees spoke about. So this gives me the opportunity to mention a pattern I see constantly at board meetings. If you simply documented the agenda items with all of the anticipated questions that may come up, then we wouldn't spend so much time discussing them at the meetings. Like I think of all the agenda items that are pulled for our board meetings. Many of those, if they were better documented, would not have to be pulled. So simply a move towards more transparency. But congratulations, I'm proud of y'all.
Thank you. President Flores, this concludes our speakers.
That concludes our agenda for the public hearing on first, and it is 6:59, and the public hearing is adjourned. While we set up, how long it's going to take us to set up for the board meeting, or are we ready to go? 5 minutes. Okay, so we'll start our board meeting in 5 minutes. We apologize, we started late. We had some hearings before this.